If you've ever been curious about how a creative career can evolve across industries from fashion to home to product development, this episode is for you. Joining us today is Scottie Collins, a creative and product development expert with over 2 decades of experience across both the home and fashion industries. He began his career in a hands-on way, weaving placemats and table runners in his apartment while attending the University of North Texas, which led to early work with Neiman Marcus and sample development for brands like Spade and Spade. From there, Scottie built an impressive career in New York, working with globally recognized brands including West Elm, Marc Jacobs, Ralph Lauren, and Juicy Couture, traveling internationally to design and develop textiles and accessories. Today, he focuses on creating meaningful, market-driven collections and is currently leading the launch of Elora Casa, I'm not sure if I said that right, a brand rooted in timeless design and future heritage, which I love that whole concept. So thank you, Scottie, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, good. These are always super fun, super casual, super fun. I mentioned you attended the University of North Texas, so take us back to the beginning. I also went to UNT. You were literally weaving pieces in your apartment. Did you know that this could become a full career, or did it kind of evolve over time?
I kind of had the inclination that it's what I wanted to do, and that's where I wanted to take my career, but it was just like, how? That was the big thing.
Okay.
How do you take hand weaving? Because that was what my degree was in. They used to have a degree called fibers.
Really?
They got rid of it about 6-7 years ago, unfortunately.
Okay.
But they still have, arts degrees there, obviously, that I studied. And
So what fell under the weaving degree? Like what other than the obvious weaving class that you took?
They had surface design, they had fiber arts, and all the various things that involved textiles under that.
Okay.
So,
Very cool. So for students listening, what did those early opportunities with Neiman Marcus and Kate Spade teach you about breaking into the industry?
Business.
Really, the business end of it.
There's a point in when you're doing your art that you have to make money. And that's where I learned how to do that. Working with major companies in the industries of fashion and home, how to do it. It was a huge challenge, but it was a lot of fun.
So what were your roles? If it kind of brought you into the business aspect of it, what was your role when you started at either one, wherever you want to start?
Neiman Marcus, I'd met a lady here in Dallas, actually, and she'd already been selling to them. So I partnered up with her, and that's where I started doing a lot of that. So she already kind of had that business in, and I learned a lot from her.
So were you doing sales?
Not really the sales. It was really just the design and product development aspect of that. And then with Kate Spade, I'd actually sort of that foray happened. It was really small at the time. Kate and Andy still owned the company. So you could kind of weasel your way through the layers there. And
less red tape.
A lot less red tape. And so I actually scored an internship, and that's where I started there as an intern. After I graduated, I packed up 3 suitcases, moved to New York City. Fortunately, my parents were super supportive of it and started interning with them. And they knew that I was a weaver and took advantage of that. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. They put you to work. They put me to work. I had my loom in my tiny Brooklyn apartment.
Wow.
And I was weaving their neckwear, their accessories for them. The turnaround times were much more incredible.
I'm
from
like,
6
how did
weeks
you,
to a week.
Yeah. How did you even? So now I'm thinking that the ones that you did were sort of the sample to say, okay, this is what you need to mass produce.
It's what they showed to the buyers.
Wow.
So their wholesale accounts would come in and they would see the samples that I wove and they would buy off of those. And then those samples would go to mass production in factories in Asia.
Why did you not bring this stuff with you? That would have been so cool.
I wish I still had it. I actually think that they kept a lot of it, unfortunately.
Right.
But,
unfortunately for you,
me.
but yeah.
But yeah, and so that just sort of went from there and got my career going in fashion. And I worked in fashion for quite some time. I went from Kate Spade. I did some work with Ralph Lauren, working on their special projects like the Olympics and U.S. Open, specifically in the children's area, which was a lot of fun.
Wow. So what were, for those of us that are very new to your end of the business, what were you specifically weaving for Ralph Lauren?
It wasn't really weaving. It was
Okay.
more of just like consulting the fabric.
Creative. Okay.
Constructions, how we do things,
Okay.
what will work best.
Okay.
As that part of my career started to take off, it became a lot less hands-on unfortunately, at
Right.
the loom. Because when you start getting more mass, it becomes a little harder.
I was just really hoping you were making the patches or something. That would be so cool.
No, unfortunately not. But it became a little more massive, just like the consulting part
Yeah.
of it. Of this is how a fabric should work, and this is
Yep.
how we can make this work and that work.
So did you work with students underneath you to kind of teach them some of those aspects throughout the years? Or were you really on a different end of that corporately?
A little different end of that
Okay.
there. When I started getting that Juicy, whenever I was at Marc Jacobs, we had a lot of interns. And I think that's really, that's how my career started, was an internship. So I would suggest the same thing really for any student.
So a lot of students now, and I don't remember if it was this way back in the day, but they have to take that internship their junior summer, right? And they have to take a class along with the internship to prove that they did the internship. So did you have an internship your junior year, or you just got the one after you graduated?
That I did. I worked with a lady, her name was Brooke. She wove scarves here and had a little line that I worked with, and that was my internship.
Okay.
And it was, again, focused on that hand weaving aspect and that handmade. And that really helped me move along.
I love that. Okay, was that a paid internship? Do you remember?
Paid in yarn.
Yarn and needles or whatever.
She gave me a lot of yarn.
That's amazing.
She was a small operation. So, I was just really thankful for the opportunity, as well as just the way to make connections too. I think that was worth more than any money.
Right.
Or just the connections that I made through all of that.
So I have a bit of a fashion background as well, but that reminds me of one of my first jobs that exposed me to Dallas Market Center. I worked for a gal in Dallas who made jewelry. It was called Linka Designs. And she had all these people come into her house and all the components, like it was just the coolest. She would send me to the place where you buy the components. I didn't make any of the jewelry, but I was sort of doing the business aspect of it. But that was my first exposure to true market when you're up there trying to sell those wares and this crazy stuff that, people are coming up with. So very cool. I love that sort of full circle moment there with all of our students and emerging professionals that are listening today. What would you say helped you stand out early on, especially without a long resume behind you? It sounds like you kind of you did some leaps pretty quick to some different companies.
I think the thing that made me stand out and helped me move along was being open, making connections, going to industry events, meeting people. A lot of my peers in school didn't do that.
So what kind of industry events would be appropriate for what you were doing?
There's like the little mixers. There's the little things that happen. The market center is really great. Whichever one, Dallas, Vegas, Atlanta, High Point, you can go and as a student. And I think that that's an opportunity that I see, because even when I've done High Point for years now, I don't see a lot of students. And it would really be a huge benefit for them to go to a market. They'll let you in. The buyers there are your peers, your future peers. The reps and the sales and the showrooms, they're your future connections.
Yes,
they're happy to let you in that showroom. Don't be shy. Not being shy is what sets you apart, and you get yourself out there, and it's a huge difference.
That's such great knowledge. And you mentioned that about High Point. I think that's really surprising because the university is literally across the street from like the market. Yeah. And you really don't see students.
It's a little...
It's underutilized.
It's underutilized.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the different organizations on the show. So ASID, IDS, and KBA and all of those groups, which is why I asked specifically, like, where would you go? But you're right. All of the markets in all of the major cities, it's just a matter of reaching out. And because you have student by your name, you get access to those places where you can go meet people, and you really have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you do. And I think people are like, oh, I'm just a student. But honestly, you're a future customer for a lot of these showrooms. You're a future peer and a future friend for all of the other people there. So,
Yeah.
take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I mentioned that I started in fashion as well. So I worked for the Limited Corporation for 13 years.
Wow.
I lived here in Texas, but I went up to Ohio Monday through Friday and worked the corporate office under several different brands in their umbrella. So that was my first exposure to merchandising and all that kind of good stuff. So with you starting in fashion, I know you and I met when you were working for a textile company that did bedding. So how was that transition from fashion to now home?
I'm sure you probably experienced the same thing. It was a fashion burnout. Where it's that constant rat race, and you kind of hit this moment in your career, like, what am I doing? I hit that. And so I took time off, and I found my way into a role at West Elm where I was designing their bedding, their pillows, their throws, and a lot of the accessories for the bedroom. And I found it a lot more meaningful. You're not selling something that is a simple handbag. You're selling something, and you're developing something that people are going to put in their homes, and it's a very thoughtful purchase.
Yeah, and they're touching and feeling and sleeping on. Like, it's very personal.
They're spending 8 hours a day in it
Yeah.
at least. So I felt that was such much more of a meaningful path to take in my career, and I've loved it. I found my stride and have just had so much fun in it since then.
I love that perspective. I think just off the cuff, somebody would say, well, bedding, that's not very, they're big flat pieces of fabric.
Oh.
But the way that it affects people's lives is huge.
And also, as a designer, I'm sure it's oftentimes you finish a project and you go, oh, I forgot about the bedding. What am I going to do about the bedding?
Bedding for us for years, it was just our tribal nemesis.
You don't want to make that after you do a really beautiful project. You don't want to make the run to Target.
Right.
You want to make a meaningful decision within that. So
pretty layers and textures.
It was my job at my last role. Like, let me help you incorporate that in early. Let's think about that early on in your design process.
So when were you at West Elm?
From about 2017 to 2021.
Okay.
And like every New Yorker, it was time to flee during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so we found an opportunity down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Everybody came to Texas that could, man.
We were one of them.
Yeah, right before it locked down, everybody came to Texas.
And we loaded up our one-bedroom apartment into a little U-Haul and drove across country and moved this way. And it's been a great experience because it just really did open up my career. Everyone here is so wonderful. You go to the market center and you meet all of these people at the end. You go to mixers and events and you just meet really supportive people in this area.
We're all
and in the industry.
same people.
Yeah, they're not your competitors.
You find your people, you find your group, and we talk a lot about how you just sort of circle the industry, but nobody leaves.
No.
Like, you may leave the fashion industry, but once you get into the home, there's just so much that you can do in it. And the people are fantastic.
And
so
everybody knows everybody. And everyone that I've ever encountered will help point you to someone that might help you out in the future.
Absolutely.
And it's just a really great industry to be in.
So was there a moment in your career where everything shifted when you realized, as we're talking about, you're being here in Texas and going into the home port, that you were exactly where you needed to be? Was there a defining moment?
I think that's a good question. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And
maybe you were just running from the pandemic, and it just kind of worked out that way.
It could be. I think it's whenever you see the results from your work. That's kind of the moment where you're like, this is what I want to do. This is why I'm happy to be here and doing what I'm doing. It might not have to specifically be in Texas doing it, but being here and meeting the people that I have and working on the projects that I have, you hit those moments where like, this is what I want to do.
From a designer on the outside looking in to somebody that's in a showroom and creating product, I would say, and you may not be aware of this, but a defining moment for those people that do create product is when you're in the showroom and everybody wants to talk to you because you created the latest line, or you're launching this beautiful product and there's a camera crew around you, which I've seen. And, everybody wants to meet Scottie. And I think that is such a cool moment that our industry appreciates that kind of talent.
I think putting, and it doesn't have to just be me, Scottie, but putting a face behind the product and it shows heart. It shows that a lot of the thought and love has gone into what we do. It could be with furniture, it could be with lighting, but just being able to make those connections and meet the person is really, really it makes an impact.
Yeah.
And it helps you as a designer, I hope, make that decision. Like, oh, I met him, I met her.
It does.
Let's,
kind of like what you were saying, as an industry, I mean, we want to help, right? So we stick with, and I hate to say this, brands, but we stick with reps. We'll stick with designers no matter where you go, right? If you're our friend, we want to help you out wherever you go. So that's just part of what this industry does, which is why nobody leaves, because it's so amazing. It's so amazing. So you've spent years developing products for major brands. What does it really take to create something that's not only beautiful, but marketable, right? So we, artists by heart, can create some crazy stuff, but that doesn't mean that other people are going to want it.
You can have that dream project that's so aspirational for you that no one else can connect with. I think it's understanding your customer is the most important thing, and especially when you're doing not individual projects, but when you're doing these mass projects that you're showing at a market or online, you have to understand your customer. And within that, you have to understand what the end use is for.
Right.
If you want to create bedding or, blankets or anything that is for South Texas, understand what you're designing into.
Right.
If you want to, for New York City or Canada, understand what you're designing into. You really have to look at the full picture. It's not just about making beautiful project, but it's also about functionality. And there's a lot of science that goes into fabric and design and materiality. We could do like 4 more podcasts on that.
I'm so interested because it's not been part of my world, right?
It's one thing that I really wish more schools would offer. I mean, if there's a school out there that needs somebody to come in as an adjunct and teach,
where you need to go
where?
Is Heritage with Kim Bailey.
I'd love to connect with them.
Yeah, we will connect you because she would love to add that aspect to their learning there.
It would blow your mind, and maybe not, to know how many designers come in and they don't have the knowledge and understanding. And I am so happy to teach. A couple of years ago, I did I'm sure you're aware of the Vacation Rental Design Summit. I was on a panel with Jessica. We both got into bed in matching pajamas.
Okay, I love it already.
We were a hit. But but the amount of time we spent just answering questions about what's the best thread count, what do I do with a towel, like what's the best towel, how do I take care of my fibers and fabrics, and it was incredible. We spent so much time just talking to the designers and teaching them best practices, and not only care but like specifications for certain things. It was really, really fun to do.
So we need a CEU on that, right? So us as designers, we learn all about rugs so that we can educate our clients. But nobody has ever brought that up about textiles. Like you sort of guess and choose and what feels good and what's pretty and all that kind of stuff. So that would be an amazing offering for you to pull together to offer to IDS, ASID, and all those other ones.
And bring in the students too.
Absolutely.
I mean, the earlier you start understanding that, the better. And it's not just textiles. Understand leather, understand wood finishes, understand ceramics and metals. There's so many little sciences that go into design.
I cannot wait to have you on again. Like we're going to take this a totally different direction next time. Going to put on some science goggles and like we're going to get after it.
To be textile school and material school. We can do
exactly.
it. It's so much fun to learn about it because I'm kind of a nerd in that aspect. There's 2 sides to my career, I feel like, of the design and make it pretty, but also make it functional and last.
Yeah. Well, you need both of them for people to come back and buy again.
Oh, yeah.
I think our industry in the last, I don't know, 5, maybe it's been longer than that. We've had a lot of designers come in and design a product for different brands. And one of the cool things behind that is you get to learn about that designer. Maybe, well, most of them I've never heard of, right? And then you get to hear their story and what their concept is behind what they're doing, which I think is super special. With doing the product design. So what skills do you believe are most important for students entering into design today? And maybe not textile design, but just design.
I think in general, the things that I still carry with me, and you probably do as well, are observation and intuition. Those two combined are probably the most important skills and tools
That's
that
brilliant,
you can have.
Actually.
You know, some people are like, oh, go learn Photoshop, go learn this AI program. You can do that on the side, but if you observe and you feel, you can make your next moves. And I feel like that's important for any aspect of design.
Great nugget.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good one. So for the design students that are hearing this today and realize that perhaps product design may be the right path for them, what should they be thinking about now? It's not directly offered in school. So what can they maybe add into their curriculum or maybe outside of that to kind of head in that direction?
I think that's where the networking would be really important. You know, go to a show, go to a trade show and start talking to the folks in the showrooms. The designers are always there.
Yeah.
We go to every show because
You're required to be there.
We kind of want to hear feedback as well and to understand. You know, I've done it. I've talked to students who wanted to take my path and gave them the advice. You know, you can still study interior design, but take those side courses of textiles or sculpture even. You know, like go into those things and understand how you can apply them to your future.
Yeah, I love that. Part of the whole concept behind the podcast is to try and teach those trying to get into the industry where they can go in the industry, right? What can they do? And I think the more tools that you put in your toolbox, you really open up a lot more doors. So that's great.
It could be as easy as going to the crafting, the Weavers Guild that you might have in town and learning to weave.
There's a Weavers Guild.
There's one in Dallas. There's one in Fort Worth. We have them. Yeah,
they're there.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
So just like get immersed, and then you can add those things to your portfolio to show like I can do this.
So would that normally fall under a fashion degree?
Not always.
Okay.
Mine wasn't a fashion degree. It was specifically textiles.
But they also canceled your degree. So
they did.
Let's just throw this out there.
I graduated with 4 people. But it's still around. Like, you know, schools offer sculpture. You know, you can take little courses at different, the weaving guilds. They offer intro to weaving. They offer different craft, ceramics. You can learn these things and add that to your portfolio. It doesn't have to be an official degree.
Well, and you have to have those electives, as I know, because my son is currently at the University of North Texas. And he is now entering his senior year and has taken all the classes he needs except electives. I was like, okay, way to go, buddy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun senior year. So that's great.
Variety pack.
Yeah, right? Who knows what's going to happen there. Let's see. So let's talk about your newest chapter. You said I pronounced it correctly. I'm going to let you say it. Elora Casa?
Yes.
Okay. I did a little Google search to try and find out a little bit about them.
Find it quite yet.
Yeah, it's not quite out there. So can you reveal?
We're launching at High Point. It's a brand currently known as India's Heritage.
Okay.
But we the owner reached out to me, asked me if I would step in, help him rebrand, help him really redo the whole line. For years, he had just trusted his vendors and bought a lot of pieces off their lines.
Yeah.
When you get it into a showroom,
it doesn't go together. You can't make a bed.
So he and I spent recently a lot of time in India, and all we were doing was putting together a new line using an existing product.
Right.
We didn't discount anything that had already been in the line, but we added a lot of new designs in so that we could tell a story.
That compose it all together.
Because that's what you all love, is to walk into a showroom and be like, wrap that bed up.
I would like that bed, please.
Because when you're designing, especially the bedding, because it's always last.
Sorry. We've gotten better, I will say.
You just want to be able to walk in and say, that's it. And that's
Right.
what I've always tried to do in my work as well. I mean, you've been to shows and seen my work before. Like how easy I try to make it for you to say, boom, there's the duvet comforter.
And I can honestly say that your designs are more appealing for our clientele. There's many out there that do it, and some of them are just a little too ornate. Would be a nice way to put it.
they have their place in the industry.
They do.
And that's wonderful.
Not always livable.
I grew up in middle America, and I know really, like, I want to make sure that I can dress my mother's bed. And that's always my goal.
Yeah.
So, and she has a lot of stuff on her bed that I've designed.
A lot of pillows.
A lot of pillows, a lot of the comforters and duvets.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that we're designing for them. Which I think is more the middle ground.
Yeah.
And then we layer on pieces that are a little bit, aspirational, that can give us all those different looks.
Yep.
But just making sure, like I said, future heritage is what I do. I don't want to design landfill product.
I love that terminology, future heritage, to pass down, to hang on to. I just love that.
It's important to me, especially in a world right now where we're so fast and turning it around.
Right.
Those big box stores that they just churn and burn.
Yeah.
And they create things that go into the landfills that don't ever go away.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I'm wearing jewelry of my grandmothers and great grandmothers right now.
It's amazing.
And I have at home, I have their quilts that they made back in the Depression.
Right.
It's really important to be able to design something that you feel like somebody's going to pass on.
Yeah.
It might not be 3 or 4 generations like I have.
Right.
But.
Well, that was different.
Yeah.
Those were handmade.
Those are
that
handmade.
was totally different.
Yeah. But just to make sure that product is livable longer.
Yeah.
And it's really important to me.
I cannot wait to see the new line. That's exciting.
Well, we'll be at High Point and hoping it goes really, really well.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
We wish you the best on that. So I'm going to ask you for one key takeaway for the students and the listeners. You've given us so much already. So when I chop this thing up, there's going to be all kinds of goodies in there. But what would be your one key takeaway for them? Advice for where they're going?
Always be willing to learn. I'm still learning. It's super important to keep your mind open. And it could just be the simplest thing. Learn. You leave school, you don't know everything. We all know that. But even after 20 years in the industry, I'm still learning. I was sitting at my loom the other day, the same loom I wove on for Kate Spade.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm weaving a blanket right now. It's my therapy.
That's amazing.
And I had an aha moment. And I learned something new, even after weaving for all of these years. And you can find those little moments that make your design career easier, your processes a little easier. Yeah. Just be open.
Or set you apart from somebody else.
That's true. Yeah, that too.
Awesome. Yeah. What a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here today. This was fantastic. And we are going to get you back for that Science of Textiles. Well, it's going to happen.
Reserve about 5 episodes and 4 hours each.
Okay.
We can go really, really long.
That's going to go really well. Okay. Thanks for being here, Scottie.
Thank you for having me.